want to talk about a subject I call fleecing. And my example, of course, is Gideon, one of the judges of Israel, back before Israel had King Saul. I'm going to be reading the scripture from Judges chapter 6, verses 36 through 40. To give you a backstory, God had told Gideon that he was to lead an army to destroy God's enemies. And Gideon was not a very confident man, let's just say. And so this is what he does. Then Gideon said to God, "If you will deliver Israel through me as you have spoken, behold, I will put a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. If there is dew on the fleece only, and it is dry on all the ground, then I will know you will deliver Israel through me as you have spoken." And it was so. When he arose early the next morning and squeezed the fleece, he drained the dew from the fleece, a bowl full of water. Then Gideon said to God, "Do not let your anger burn against me, that I may speak once more. Please let me make a test once more with the fleece. Let it now be dry, only the fleece, and let there be dew on all the ground." God did so that night, for it was dry only on the fleece, and dew was all around. All and dew was on all the ground. I'll get it out here right. Okay. So God had told Gideon that he was going to deliver Israel through him. He was going to lead Israel's armies and defeat um, their enemies. And Gideon wasn't so sure about what God was telling him. Many speculate that he didn't trust what God was saying. Many speculate that he just wasn't confident in himself. But whatever the case, Gideon did something that we should never do. He threw out a condition to God. God, if you do this, then I know it's true. God mercifully and graciously did as Gideon said. Um, but even that wasn't enough. And Gideon prayed, prayed to God again and asked God not to be angry with him, but just do it this way this time. That way I know what you're telling me is going to happen. Again, God graciously um, did what he had requested. So, but if you notice, it was Gideon who stipulated the conditions. It wasn't God. But because God is true to his word and had already told Gideon that he was going to deliver Israel through him, God granted these requests, these conditions, and performed them for Gideon. Now, here's the flip side. To further prove to Gideon that God meant what he said, is when it came time to war, God told Gideon, the army's too big. And he systematically made uh, two steps in reducing the army down to, I think it was like maybe 300 men. That was it. But the funny thing is, God had Gideon do two things to reduce that army. Just like Gideon forced God to do things to prove to Gideon that he was going to do what he told Gideon he was going to do. That's not called irony, folks. That's called God being in control and God showing Gideon he meant what he said by his way of doing it, not our way. Um, so my question is, how many times do we throw fleeces out to God whenever He tells us to do something or that He's going to do something through us? Um, or how many times, even worse, how many times do we tell God, I'll do this for you if you do this for me? It's not healthy for us because if God tells us He's going to do something, He'll do it. We need to trust Him 100% on Him getting it done through us. And honestly, we shouldn't even be worried about how He's going to get things done through us. He's got a plan, He's in control. He will accomplish His will, His way through us. And we just have to trust that whatever happens, you know, it's going to happen just like He said. Now, sometimes His way might cause us discomfort, pain, uncertainty, you know, but in the end, whatever it says is going to happen, it's going to happen. Um, I know I've thrown many a fleece out there in my lifetime when God asked me to do something, um, and you know, and I shouldn't be doing that, but I'm still thankful that God, you know, didn't reverse what He said He was going to do because He never does that. If He says He's going to do it, He's going to do it. Now, in the case of uh, disobedience, He may delay the uh, the result of what He said He's going to do, as He did with the Israelites in the Promised Lands, whereas you know they flat out were like, "Oh, we can't do it; they're too big." You know, when they totally just did not trust God at all to take care of it for them, you know, He made them wait 40 years, a generation, before letting them have the Promised Land. He still gave them the Promised Land, but because of their, and I'm going to call it their fleecing, you know, um, actually they didn't even fleece. That's incorrect. They didn't even fleece. They just flat out disobeyed. Only 2 of the 8 spies were like, "We got this. Let's go on in. God's going to give us this land." The other 10, there's no way we can do it. There's no way. They're too big. They're this. They're that. Blah blah blah. Wah wah wah. Um, and then after a night or so, they're like, you know what? Okay, let's go do it. You know, at that point, um, God had already made His mind up that He was gonna give the promised land to the next generation because of the disobedience of their unwillingness to go. Now, even though Gideon fleeced throughout conditions there, Gideon didn't say that he doubted that God was going to use him, even though his actions would indicate so. He was wanting reassurance from God that what he was going to do, he was going to do. And I think that's why God may have, granted his fleecing here was to boost his confidence. Even though Gideon should have just trusted God and said, because who knows, if Gideon just flat out trusted God and didn't throw out these fleecing conditions to God, God very may well have granted him the whole army to wipe out the enemies. But I do strongly believe because of Gideon's fleecing here, of his conditions that he threw out there to prove to Gideon himself that God meant what he said, I think that's why God went through and did the two steps to reduce this humongous army down to 300 men, and then told Gideon to go fight this war with just 300 men. And Gideon obeyed God and, of course, was victorious because it was God's war, it was God's battle. God already had it won, it just needed to be played out. And basically, whatever God tells us to do something or He's going to do something through us, it's already done. We're just playing it out for Him, and we gotta trust Him. We gotta have faith, and we gotta stop throwing those fleeces out there just to boost our self confidence when all of our confidence should be in God. So, with that, I love you guys. You have a blessed day, and we'll see you tomorrow.